It's a South Haven icon that's been standing for more than 100 years, but time and weather have taken their toll on the lighthouse at the end of the pier.
We started our brick paver program. We asked for pledges for continuing years of support. We asked for donations and kind of crossed our fingers. And it worked. Amazingly enough, it worked. So this is kind of surprising that it happened so quickly, and so we're ready to have a party this evening.
I'm your lighthouse, by the way. That's me speaking. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. I want to take this time before everybody gets in place to thank the Save the Light Committee. I really appreciate what you did. Over $300,000 raised. Whew. I feel so good with my insides all cleaned up, and I look good with my new paint job. You know, it took 52 gallons of paint to cover me. I never looked better. Once Haas brought me from the Coast Guard back in 2012, Ed and Jim and others would come out with their paint cans, climb up long ladders to give me a fresh coat of paint. They also would come out to cover up the graffiti that people sometimes saw fit to draw on my lower rings. I wish you people wouldn't do that. I'm so happy that Pam Chappell is here and Joe Foster. They're going to sing for us in a little while. And Jim Hughey is here. He's going to offer up a medley at the end of the program. You know, he wrote a special lighthouse song to help us raise money. And even the mayor is here for my formal dedication. But I'd like to tell you my story if I could. It'll take a few minutes, but you might learn a thing or two. People look up to me. People have been looking up to me from every angle for years and years. And even today, some question if I am necessary at all. People still look up. Am I necessary? Am I necessary? I'm going to tell you my story and you can decide. I am the light. I am the South Haven light. I stand at the end of the South Haven Pier. I am the red rock of Gibraltar, steady as she goes, with over 100 years of history behind me. I am one of over 400 lights on the Great Lakes, 124 in Michigan, and only 4 with a catwalk. I'm not the oldest, not the youngest, not the brightest, not the tallest, but ask folks who live around here or people who visit South Haven, and you'll find they think I'm the coolest. I'm here for you in the heaviest of seas, pounded and pummeled by the anger that can be Lake Michigan. I'm here in the dead of winter, ice head to toe, but always standing tall. I've been a host to you and your friends from near and far, by land and by sea. But I'm alone most of the time, a thankless vigil, bypassed by technology. But today I play another role, and I think you'll agree it's an important one. I started out as a wooden structure nearly a century and a half ago. About the only thing that's left of the original me that you'd recognize is if you look up at the top right now of the lighthouse, you'll see at the very top the lantern room. That is original from my original shape when I was wooden. Everything else has been replaced. To keep my light operating back in the day, I went through about 80 gallons of whale oil in a year. The first pier was built in 1861. It was only 225 feet long. When I came along, they lengthened it to 300 feet. Piers continued to stretch out into the lake as boats got bigger and traffic increased. I made several trips out into the river as the piers were lengthened. Then I was floated back to the new end of the lengthened pier. And remember, every time the South Pier was lengthened, the North Pier had to be lengthened too. In 1940, the wooden pier was replaced with concrete and lengthened for the last time to its current length, 1,255 feet. That was the year the Coast Guard took responsibility of me. But going back, I'm getting ahead of myself. In 1902, I got a new Fresnel lens that significantly increased my candle power. The main river traffic back in the beginning was boats carrying lumber from the sawmills up the stream, and the river was dredged to 12 feet for 20 miles. Lumber was floated downriver to the sawmills and shipped to Chicago and Milwaukee by schooner. Many of those schooners were built right here on the banks of the Black River. With the land cleared and the lumber gone, fruit trees were planted, and peaches and apples were the area's first foray into agribusiness. By 1900, the city had erected a fine keeper's house that's still up on the hill overlooking the harbor today. Now, the keeper who occupied that house the longest was Captain James Donahue. He was awarded the job of lighthouse keeper for his service in the Civil War, where he lost a leg at the Battle of the Wilderness. That's right, the keeper who kept me the longest had only one leg and had to come out, climb that catwalk in all sorts of weather twice a day, once to light my light at dusk, and then again to snuff it out at daybreak.
March 18, 1885. At 8 p.m. I was home reading, and all at once the doors both sides of the house opened. In rushed 42 vessel owners and captains and mates and sailors. It was my birthday, being 45 years old. They filled the house full, no standing room. They brought our friend Crasso, and he opened the ball with a nice piece of poetry, and then presented me, in behalf of the seamen of South Haven, with a splendid badge, and my name and date, and lighthouse, anchor, spyglass, and yacht engraved on the back. A splendid, nice present. I thanked them in my poor way. Then they sung a number of nice songs and left for home after giving me 3 rousing cheers such as sailors can give. It was the happiest evenings of my life.
Oh, Captain Donahue, the keeper of the light. Oh, how you kept it burning through the darkest deep of the night. For 35 years of faithful care, you brought us to safe harbor. Oh, Captain Donahue, will you rest in peace tonight? He lost a limb, but not his life, in 1864, in the Battle of the Wilderness of the bloody Civil War. Appointed lighthouse keeper in South Haven came to dwell, where the tempest on Lake Michigan can shake the doors of hell.
December 6, 1882. Snow and cloudy, wind northwest. The wind comes up at 3 p.m. with an increase to high wind. The water washed over both piers and made ice as soon as the water struck. It was one of the awfulest nights that I ever visited the light.
South Haven was a rough and tumble town back in the day. A lighthouse keeper's job was hard and brought in little pay. But Captain Donahue would brave the wildest winter storm in the wee hours of the morning when the town was sleeping warm.
November 19, 1881. I was at the lighthouse the greatest part of the night, keeping the snow off the glass, and changed the lamps at 12 at night. Nothing else in sight on the lake.
The lighthouse came to be his friend of steel and ice and brass. He changed the lamps and trimmed the wick, chipped ice off from the glass. He kept a detailed record of the ships that came his way, the comings and the goings and the weather of each day.
April 16, 1876. The weather cold, the night dark, the lake midland rough. The schooner William Smith was gotten off the beach in a leaky condition. There was a tug went south this forenoon. 7 schooners, 1 bark, 1 steamer. July 4, 1875. Rain and cloudy, wind moderate, south. The lake smooth, the night dark, the weather warm. My wife died this afternoon at 4 p.m. of lung disease.
Oh, Captain Donahue, the keeper of the light. Oh, how you kept it burning in the darkest deep of the night. For 35 years of faithful care, you brought us to safe harbor. Oh, Captain Donahue, will you rest in peace tonight? 1 November, 2 a.m., a storm was sweeping through. Winds at 50 miles an hour made icy fingers blue. He crawled along the catwalk on his hands and one good knee. The lantern clutched between his teeth. The man could hardly see. I could not sleep a wink, he said, if there was any chance. A sailor might be searching for our port by happenstance. If only darkness greeted him on such an unkind sea, he could be lost to a watery grave for all eternity.
April 4, 1887. I started the light at sundown. In going to the light, I was knocked down with flying ice, and coming back, I was struck on the hip and head and shoulders. I am not able to walk this morning. That rail is not long enough or high enough. October 23, 1887. I had a hard time changing the lamps at midnight or getting to the light. The sea was so heavy it buried me up twice on the pier. I got a fearful wetting. February 22, 1888. The snow is wearing away, but cold night. The harbor is still solid and boys and girls skating on it.
The people in the village found him cheery and polite. This guardian of the harbor, the keeper of the light. 15 men and women and children he did save from drowning in Lake Michigan, swept out by wind or wave.
August 19, 1886. I was sitting at the boathouse at 2:15 p.m. I heard hollering. I went out and my son Calvin had fell into the lake from the South Pier and was drowning. I got there, dove in, and brought him out, but he was nearly gone. We got the water out of him, and he is all right again. South Haven Daily Tribune, November 27, 1917. The funeral was held at the home on Michigan Avenue Thursday afternoon, the final event of the earthly life of this simple, heroic, big-hearted man who had served his country so many years.
So if by chance you're walking on the shore some starry night, you feel a shadow move across the tower's steady light, don't let the flicker trouble you, for there are those who claim it's just our Captain Donahue, he's checking on the flame. Oh, Captain Donahue, the keeper of the light, oh, how he kept it burning in the darkest deep of the night. For 35 years of faithful care, he brought us to safe harbor. Oh, Captain Donahue, will you rest in peace tonight? Oh, Captain Donahue, may you rest in peace tonight.
Thank you, Pam and Joe.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. It's always nice to have your songs sung to you live. Quite a guy, that Donahue. He was the town's mayor, ran the waterworks, and even had a boat livery service on the river. In all, there were 6 keepers who watched over me until around 1940, and by that time everything was automated. It was during Donahue's watch, way back 1903, that they put up the new me. I came to town unassembled on a steamer, the Hyacinth. I was all steel, and I was painted white. Now, if you look up at the black cast iron walkway around the lens room, that had already been in service for 40 years at a lighthouse in Muskegon. It was just disassembled and brought down here. My foghorn was a manual item operated solely by Donahue's lung power. And that was replaced by a 1,600-pound bell. And by 1937, the bell was replaced by a new droning foghorn. Now, you older folks may remember my call at the time. Each port had its own foghorn code. Mine, for South Haven, was 2 seconds, then 3 seconds of silence, and then 2 seconds again, then 23 seconds, and finally 2 seconds again. It sounded like this. Well, you get the idea. I won't have you listen to 23 seconds of silence. Everything that went along pretty smoothly then until about 1973, when the Coast Guard station, located back there by the new commemorative brick plaza, closed, and then it was gutted by fire. I should have been a little more suspicious when the Corps of Engineers proposed to tear down the catwalk. That was in 1985. As I was no longer manned and the catwalk wasn't necessary, not necessary, there goes that word again. Well, thank goodness a group of South Haven catwalk fans didn't feel that way. They formed a volunteer committee, much like the Save the Light committee, and the catwalk was not only saved, but they added lights, and I looked better than I ever had. So, here I am in all my glory. 37 feet tall, 12 feet diameter at the base, 10 feet at the parapet. I am the light. And now that the rust is gone, and there's a new interior paint job, the floors have been repaired, and the windows at the top were recaulked and cleaned up, I'm not embarrassed to have you see my new insides. So I guess we could call on Amanda Cretin, the president of Hash, my new owners, see if she's got the key. Amanda, would you step forward and show how that key works? Excellent. From lumber to shipbuilding, fruit growing to fish catching, luxury ships to tramp steamers, heavy-duty industry to light, I've seen it all. What is something that has been around here from the very beginning, that's this one thing that keeps us going, and that's very simply fun. Fun for the people who visit here, and fun for the people who live here. Which brings me to the man who's going to run our dedication, and has helped make that fun happen for the past decade and longer, our Mayor Bob Burr.
Yeah. As a typical mayor, I have a proclamation to offer this evening.
Whereas for more than a century, the South Haven Lighthouse has been an important part of the lives of South Haven residents and visitors. And whereas the South Pier Light, since construction began on a 30-foot wooden lighthouse with a 75-foot wooden catwalk, has become representative of the city of South Haven, and as hundreds of residents and thousands of visitors have made a walk to the most westerly point of the city a tradition part of their vacation in South Haven. The lighthouse has become a kind of Key West of the Midwest. And whereas as the locations of weddings, graduation and family portraits, and annual vacation snapshots, the South Haven Lighthouse is surely the most photographed and most touched icon for locals and visitors alike. Whereas, due to their interest in history, including that of the city of South Haven, a group of citizens founded HASH, the Historical Association of South Haven, in 2002, and whereas when the United States federal government offered to gift the structure to a local unit of government or recognized nonprofit organization, HASH took responsibility for acquiring and restoring the lighthouse through fundraising and in-kind donations of time and labor. And now therefore it be resolved that the city of South Haven hereby recognizes HASH at the time of the dedication of the South Haven Lighthouse, and therefore let it also be resolved that the city of South Haven hereby recognizes the many volunteers of the Historical Association for their dedicated effort to obtain the lighthouse and keep it under local control. Signed, Mayor Robert Burr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much.
Now, this is our song, so I want you to help me sing it. You have a copy. I'll teach you the chorus. She's been there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching the children grow. She's been there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching the children grow. You got that? She's been there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching the children grow. There's a lighthouse standing on the end of the pier, like a mother watching over a child, on days when the lake as smooth as glass or the combers rolling wild. She watches in the day and she shines in the night as the vessels they come and go. She sends out her call in the heavy fog to guide the sailor home. It's your turn. She's been there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching the children grow. Well, she watched as I learned to swim on the beach when I was 8 years old. It was early in the summer as I held my breath and the water was so cold. She watches her children laugh and play, building castles in the sand. She watched as I dove, I swam off second, and she watched me grow to be a man. Your turn. She's there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching the children grow. Well, I'd miss that lighthouse standing on the pier if they ever took her down. It'd never be the same if they took her away from the shores of my hometown. Now they fixed her up, she stands like a queen for the next generation to see. I love that lighthouse standing on the pier as she watches you and me. Your turn. She's been there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching her children grow. One more time. She's been there in the sun, there in the rain, there in the ice and snow, watching the sailors passing by and watching her children grow. Lighthouse song, it's your song. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. There is no place in the world that I would rather be than right here at the end of the South Pier. I am your shining light. I am your red rock of Gibraltar. I am your touchstone to history. I am a symbol of your past. And thanks to all of you at the Historical Association of South Haven, I will be a proud symbol of your future. Good night, everyone. I hope you can stay for the sunset. I see it every night, and it's beautiful.
I'm going back to old South Haven, where they have the finest beach, for the place I have been saving, and I hope that I can reach, where everyone is welcome, and each one understands they're in South